This map shows the sheer, overwhelming scale of the Russian Empire in 1894, stretching from Eastern Europe all the way across Siberia to the Pacific Ocean. It held enormous natural resources and a massive, diverse population. Sitting at the very top of this vast system was Tsar Nicholas II. He ruled with absolute autocratic power over a society where the vast majority of people were deeply impoverished peasants who barely survived on the land they worked. The pressure inside this unequal society cracked in 1905, when thousands of workers marched peacefully in St. Petersburg to demand better conditions and basic reforms. Imperial troops fired directly into the crowd. Faced with a crippled economy and spreading strikes, the Tsar offered a compromise. He promised civil liberties and created a parliament, called the Duma, to give the illusion of shared governance, while quietly retaining his grip on the military and key ministries. By writing reforms on paper but refusing to actually surrender authority, the monarchy survived the immediate crisis, but they permanently lost the public's faith that the system could ever be fixed peacefully. Then, in 1914, Russia entered World War I. Almost immediately, the Imperial Army faced severe shortages of weapons, boots, and ammunition, leading to staggering casualties on the Eastern Front. The strain of the conflict quickly broke the domestic economy. Overloaded railway lines failed to deliver essential supplies, triggering rapid inflation and crippling food shortages in major cities. In 1915, Nicholas II made a disastrous strategic decision. He left the capital to take personal command of the military forces at the front lines. By taking direct control, every battlefield defeat and supply failure was now tied directly to him. Meanwhile, the government back in Petrograd was left in the hands of an increasingly chaotic and unpopular administration. A modern industrialized war requires a highly functional state. The conflict exposed every hidden weakness in the Russian economy and its leadership, stretching an already brittle society until it broke. By February 1917, the freezing streets of Petrograd reached a boiling point. Factory workers walked out on strike, and thousands of women marched through the city demanding bread. When the government ordered the military to suppress the crowds, the soldiers, exhausted and starving themselves, lowered their rifles and joined the protests. Without the loyalty of the army, the monarchy had no leverage left. Within days, Tsar Nicholas II abdicated, ending over 3 centuries of Romanov rule. Instead of a unified state, Russia split into 2 authorities, the Provisional Government maintaining official order, and the Petrograd Soviet representing workers and soldiers. The Provisional Government quickly lost its footing by refusing to leave the war and delaying crucial land redistribution. The sudden absence of the Tsar left a massive power vacuum. Whichever faction could promise to solve the hunger and the bloodshed fastest would ultimately inherit control. In April 1917, radical socialist Vladimir Lenin returned from exile. He immediately instructed his party, the Bolsheviks, to reject all cooperation with the Provisional Government. He focused his campaign on a simple 3-word platform: peace, land, and bread. By promising to end the war, give estates to the peasants, and feed the cities, he directly targeted the exact issues the moderate government failed to address. Over the summer, a chaotic military threat from a rogue general forced the Provisional Government to arm radical workers to defend the capital. This destroyed the moderates' credibility and left the Bolshevik supporters heavily armed. Bolsheviks used these armed units to execute a precise tactical takeover. Rather than fighting a massive street battle, they simply seized bridges, telegraph offices, and the Winter Palace, capturing the state apparatus overnight. They stepped into a void. By offering absolute answers while the existing government hesitated, a small, highly organized group managed to capture an entire nation. Once in charge, the Bolsheviks moved rapidly to secure their grip. They shut down opposition newspapers, dissolved a newly elected Democratic Assembly, and established a secret police force known as the Cheka. To deliver on their promise to end the war, they signed the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk with Germany in 1918. The terms were staggering. Russia surrendered massive amounts of its western territory, vital farmland, and millions of its citizens. This map shows the brutal civil war that followed. The Bolsheviks, fielding the newly formed Red Army, held a unified central stronghold around Moscow and Petrograd. From there, they fought off attacks from a fractured coalition of anti-communist forces, known as the White Armies. To keep their military machine running, the state enacted war communism. They seized control of factories and forcibly requisitioned grain from peasants to feed the Red Army, which was being aggressively disciplined and meticulously organized by the commander, Leon Trotsky. The new government did not win the Civil War through universal popular support. They won through centralized control, ruthless logistical organization, and a willingness to use terror against resistance. By 1921, the conflict had devastated the country. The economy was completely paralyzed, and even former revolutionary loyalists, like the naval sailors at Kronstadt, launched armed rebellions against Bolshevik rule. Realizing the system was near shattering, Lenin executed a tactical retreat called the New Economic Policy. He permitted limited private trade to get food back into the cities, while strictly maintaining absolute political control over the government. The following year, the fractured remnants of the old empire were officially bound together to create a new, highly centralized communist state, the Soviet Union. When Lenin's health failed and he died in 1924, a fierce internal power struggle began. Slowly and methodically, a party organizer named Joseph Stalin outmaneuvered his rivals, placing loyalists in key positions until he held unquestioned command. A movement that began with freezing, starving citizens demanding basic liberties and bread had run its full course. By destroying one absolutist empire, they built the machinery for an even more powerful, centralized autocracy.